I like to surround myself with people who are on the same path or the same journey, because it not only encourages and supports me to continue to achieve that goal and move forward, but then it's somebody like a teamwork.
Welcome to One More Thing, a podcast like no other. I'm Kyle Thompson, coach, speaker, and turnaround artist, driven by enthusiasm and fueled by passion in everything I do.
And I'm Tori Barker, creative engineer and marketing guru. You're about to experience a podcast that will challenge you to think, reflect, laugh, and grow.
Come along with us as we share stories that will inspire you to be the best version of you.
It's all about embracing change and the power of transformation.
Know we believe in you. We've got your back. You've got this.
All that we ask of you is to show up with an open mind and an enthusiastic heart.
So sit down, buckle up, and hold on.
Hey everybody, Happy New Year! Tori, not that I had to point to her so you would know who we were, Tori and Kyle and
We're
Tori.
Here, we're back!
Just to see if you're paying attention. That's the way I did that.
Happy New Year, everyone!
Happy New Year! So naturally, we always think about, topics and discussions and things that we can do that would be really, number one, entertaining for you, great takeaways, but inspiring for us,
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, help us through our own challenges.
To that point,
Yes.
Tori and I wanted to share something with you because what we really wanted to focus on today was about change. With the new year coming, there's always resolutions and different things tied around it, but we wanted to give you takeaways or maybe things that you could think about or how that affected you or relate to. And we thought that we might have it when we were talking to one another this morning. So I came in to Tori's house. That's where we're recording. Great backdrop, huh? What do you guys think? High production? Look at Tori.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tori said, without even talking, she said, I just really felt like, and I thought, same thing. No inspiration, no anything. And so contrary to who we are. But I wanted Tori to kind of take you through the steps of how you were feeling, and then I'll share with you how I was feeling. So Tori?
Yeah, Kyle and I hadn't talked too much yesterday, but we were both having the same feelings. And I was in the middle of putting together some content to share out with my community, and I was struggling, like really, really struggling, because I was trying to, and this is what I told Kyle, I felt like I was putting a round peg in a square hole, and I was trying to do my marketing like all the other marketers that I see, like all the other big time people, how they do it, what step by step, and it did not feel authentic. It just felt forced. I felt uncomfortable and not at ease with what I was doing. It was hard for me to verbalize what I was trying to portray and teach. And I'm sitting there thinking, I know this stuff. Why is this so hard for me today? And after I finished what I was doing and kind of self-reflected, I was like, that's just not me. That's not who I am. And so I just kind of was just off in a funk. And so it's funny because Kyle came in and she's like, I was not inspired yesterday. I'm like, that was me.
Well, here's the thing that we want to encourage you to do. First thing this new year, find somebody who knows who you truly, truly are. Because authenticity is huge, but change, like we talked about, or things in order to create a better you and a better version of you for the new year come about as a result of people who are in your camp and your biggest cheerleaders and who can look at something, because Tori said, can you look at this? She didn't even go a minute.
It wasn't even like, 50 seconds. And Kyle said, who is that? And what are you doing?
Tori has this great sign in her house. And it was creativity is intelligence having fun. Tori lives, breathes, sleeps, and eats by that. And it's on her desk, predominant. I go, use the F word. She goes, I did. I used that F word a lot, but it wasn't happening yesterday. I said, no, the other F word. Fun. Have fun. Tori is great at being able to connect the dots for people like myself who are really challenged, but she does it in a fun way. Yeah. And this, as she said, was portrayed in a way that was not authentic to who she was. And she felt it immediately.
Yeah.
I too did. I found myself thinking, boy, I feel like I'm hashing or rehashing the same things that I have probably said before, but in a different way. But as I told Tori when we were talking it through, I think people need to hear things over and over and over again because you hear them differently or you might have heard it for the first time. So important that we do. It's like the fundamentals, executing the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So while we did our little soul search of ourselves this morning, oh my gosh, we got to that place and that point. So to that point, we didn't want you to think that you're alone when you have those moments where you get up and think, I don't feel inspired.
Yeah.
I don't feel committed. I don't feel like I'm going to do this. I don't think that the end's in sight. We all have that.
Yeah.
And people like to think that they have a plan. So our quote to start the podcast for the new year came from Mike Tyson. For those of you who don't know who Mike Tyson was, I thought that guy was an animal. I love boxing, but I thought when I looked at that guy, I thought I would just run from the ring. I don't care how good a boxer I was. He looked like he would eat you. He didn't want to just beat you. He wanted to eat you too, which I think he did ultimately to Evander Holyfield. But the point is, that's a whole other story. He had a quote, which funny thing, I was also thinking, I always thought he was an animal until he started talking, and I thought, who is that?
No.
Did he take helium? Who is that guy? But this quote came from Mike Tyson as it relates to plans, and plans as it puts in place for the new year. Everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face. I loved that because our hit in the face happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We had a plan. We wanted to set about executing.
And we fell short.
And we fell way short.
You know, it's funny. That kind of reminds me of what you always told me, the frying pan moment. Mm-hmm. And so there was, a time before I started my own business where I was, not sure, kind of, what do I do? Where do I go? The wishy-washy stage that you get in. And there were these, Kyle would call them taps on the shoulder, that would kind of direct you or lead you down the path that you should be going. And I apparently needed the frying pan moment, like not a little tap, but like a big frying pan to put things into perspective for me so that I knew, I should go that way. So that's funny because that reminded me of that frying pan moment.
It totally is, and you have those. And I used to have people tell me, you strike me as a person who pays attention to the frying pan moments. And when I had bangs, I'd pull my bangs up and go, do you see Teflon like embedded in my forehead? My fair share, and I will continue to have my fair share of frying pan moments, and take those and think, thank God that I had that moment. Thank you for that. But in this course, and as we're looking at the new year, change is what we're kind of talking about, because a lot of people put in place the things that they would like to do, the resolutions that they want to make, the things that they want to achieve. And the reason that I think and maintain, and Tori and I have talked about this a lot, that people aren't able to achieve their New Year's resolutions is by and large because people hate change.
Yeah.
If you talk to people, they'll say, I hate change. I don't want anything to change. And I feel like saying, are you still in kindergarten? Yeah. Are you still,
Change is inevitable.
It is inevitable. And
whether you like it or not.
And, to Tori's point, more oftentimes than not, as you look back at the change, rare is the occasion that change didn't bring about something that was positive. Not to say that it wasn't really hell to get through, because it might have been. I get that. Cancer diagnosis, August 2018. However, the other side and who I am now, I don't even recognize the person who was on the other side of that. And that change, frying pan moment, because it was a frying pan moment, changed for the better. What Tori and I feel is that the way in order for you to achieve change and achieve those New Year's resolutions and get to that place is not only to recognize change is inevitable and has to happen in order to achieve those, but you have to change the way you change. Mm-hmm. Those universal things that say, I'm going to lose weight in 30 days. Follow these 3, simple things.
Well, step by step.
And you go, what? So you think, okay, I'm going to follow it, and you lose interest after step 1 or step 3.
That's so true.
And you don't sustain it. The reason you don't sustain it is because that's not the way you achieve change.
Yeah.
So Tori and our challenge to you is you got to go back in a time and a place in your life where you had change, and how did you go about that? How would you have done that differently? Mm-hmm. What was it that really propelled you to the change, but changed the way you are? Tori, how do you change? How do you go about change in your life? What's the most comfortable way when and you might be real resistant to it first. Who isn't?
Yeah.
Right? But what have you found to be successful for you when you're changing or things are going on for you? That you're kind of more at peace?
I'm a self-reflective type person. So I'm a
Good.
thinker, not an overthinker. I'm a thinker.
Mm-hmm.
So I think and I self-reflect, and I have to get at peace with what my decision is. So depending on, weight loss or, starting a new project, doing it differently, I have to think about what I did before and then how that made me succeed, or was it successful or not? What could I do to change it? And then I put into place my own step-by-step and my goals to achieve that change that
I love
aiming
it.
towards. What about you?
Oh,
I know.
warrior, strategist, General Patton. I'm like, this is a war. It is on. So I am a sequential black and white thinker. This is the way it's got to happen. This is, I don't want feelings to come into that. I don't want any of that. Feelings are important. Self-reflection, I really like that Tori said that, because I do think that that's an important piece. But I think the self-reflection, taking it a step further as it relates to your progress as well. So when you start off initially, your self-reflection is going to be far different than it's going to be going through the course of change, whatever that change may be.
Yeah.
So I know we both kind of hit the bell to say, journal. Take time to make notes. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you write them on little Post-it notes and throw it into a jar and then look at that at the end of the year.
That's a good idea.
But yeah, and I do that as well, those little Post-it notes, just so I can have an idea of what the year was like.
Yeah.
But the point is that you need to see how progress was made, how you best went in achieving that status or wherever you wanted to go in terms of getting to that place. And then in turn, applying that principle or those principles as it relates to moving forward, because you're going to be punched in the face a lot in your lifetime. You might not have to have work done on your face as it relates to it, but proverbially you will have to realize that those punches are coming, and so how you handle it and prepared to handle it is the best way. Our other thing is, and Tori can talk a little bit more about this, but do not change by committee. This is not up for everyone to have input as to how you're going to change. So, Tori, do you want to talk about that as it relates to people listening to other people? And
it's funny because I was just thinking to myself that I like to surround myself with people who are on the same path or the same journey, because it not only encourages and supports me to continue to achieve that goal and move forward, but then it's somebody like a teamwork.
Yep.
And for me, it's all, I grew up in the sports, playing sports and leadership and teams and groups. And so I think that's what is missing a lot of times when I don't achieve those goals, is because I'm trying to do it on my own. And I'm trying to just be that solo soldier. But it doesn't work that way. I like to be surrounded with people, bounce ideas off of, to get creative, to support one another, to encourage, to help when, I start to fall or, a little bit off the wagon, and I need someone to pick me back up and say, nope, get back on there. You know what you're doing. This is your goal.
yeah,
And so, I think surrounding yourself with people who are on the similar path or journey is important, but you don't want people to tell you what to do. That's the difference. So by surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you guys are all on the same mindset, the same journey, but you don't want the outsiders to come in and say, oh, that's really not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. Are you sure you want to do that? Because that's not going to help you. So you need to surround yourself with those people who support and encourage and lift you to that goal.
and understand change is scary. Change is tough. It seems monumental. If you surround yourself with people who are scared, their fear is not about what you're trying to achieve. Their fear is about them.
Yeah.
That's what they internalize. Oh, I could never do that. Well, you're not me. I would never. It's not. So as soon as you hear somebody's dialogue, that is not somebody, as Tori was saying, to surround yourself with. That person's got to go. Move over here. You're in another role in my life. But the people that I need are the people who recognize how important this is to me, how they know that I can achieve it, how they know that it's scary, but they want to keep me moving forward. You do you. Then you do you best. My dad used to always say, play your game.
Yep.
Listen, I wasn't a person who was going to be the base stealing queen or whatever.
Me neither.
Yeah, that was just not going to happen.
You know what my dad would say from the stands?
No.
Drop the trailer, Tori! When I'm trying to run down the field, because that was so slow. Drop the trailer. I'm like, okay.
You should have gone, who's Tori?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd have been awesome. Fathers and the things that they say, just so amazing. They couldn't do it today, which is too bad, because my dad used to have very colorful language, and I thought, my dad could never coach today. But God bless him, because the impact that he made on people, amazing. So the point is, as it relates to that in a team kind of atmosphere or your individual performance, by doing you and playing your game, you come in from a place of strength.
Yeah.
So when you feel out of sorts like we did in the last couple of days, then that means you're not being true to who you are.
Yep.
Bottom line, really simple, play your game. And my father told me all the time, Kyle, there will be somebody prettier, smarter, faster, whatever the case may be, than you. You just do the best with what you've got, and that's all you need. So from that standpoint, as it relates to resolutions and achieving things this year, our challenge to you would be stay true to who you are. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you are not on the right path, then you are not changing or making those steps in the way that you normally would.
Go back to step one.
Yep. Rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Because that is what's going to play over for change to be sustainable.
Yeah, I agree.
True.
Absolutely.
So from that standpoint, if you have New Year's resolutions, and I've even hated the term resolution. I can't wrap my head around that. But if you have things that you really see as a big goal, dream big, do all of that stuff, but don't change it because somebody tells you can't do it.
Yeah. Or you're not doing it the right way.
Oh my God. I've had people my whole life tell me how I should be and what I should be. And, there are a couple of times where I thought, well, maybe I am. No. And I can't be anything other than me, because that's why I was put on this earth, to be uniquely me. And to Tori's point, to be uniquely her. And just in this conversation alone, you have seen how we go about things.
Yeah.
So, I have big goals for this year. Tori has big goals for this year. But together, we have been able to bounce that off and say, hey, what do you think? I don't tell Tori how to achieve it the way I would. She'd lose her mind. She would be institutionalized. Yes, she would. And I, by the same token, would not expect that from Tori.
Yeah.
The way Tori would approach it would be different, and yet she knows how I would approach it, so I feel comfortable enough in that. Right, Tori?
Yeah.
I think if you have questions about that, first step, and you have things that you really want to, first of all, don't make a list of about 20 things. Make it very simple. Top 3. That's it, right?
Yeah,
Three's good.
Yeah.
I used to do it as personal, business, and a wild card.
That's a great idea.
So if you do personal, business, and a wild card, then you have things that you have think about from the standpoint of personally, what do I want to achieve? Mm-hmm. My work, what do I want to achieve? And then a wild card. I want to be czar. I don't know. Whatever you want to do, you find it and then trust in it.
Go dance.
And go. Oh my God, that'd be so fun. I think I want to be. I didn't put that down. I might put that down now. I want to be a go-go dancer. Yeah. Oh God, who wants to see that? But also recognize that you're putting in place the foundation of who you are. We talked a little bit about not being able to sustain change because most people are fearful of change. But what I want you to also realize is unless you change in the manner and way in which you would change, it's like building a home, the foundation. You kind of sloppy with the foundation, then you start, putting up the walls and everything. And when one wall's kind of cattywampus and all of that.
Hope not.
Exactly. That if you could see that vision in your mind, that's what your proverbial house looks like for yourself. The foundation has to be strong. Yeah. So start from the standpoint of how you have best gone about change or what you've been really proud of. And celebrate that. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why people won't look at the way or things that they've done and go, God, that was really awesome.
We don't give ourselves credit.
We never give ourselves credit. Mm-hmm. So don't do that. And see yourself as a work of art. So every day, if you saw yourself, as an artist, and Tori can talk to this because she's the artist, but a brush stroke a day, sculpting it a day, maybe taking the whole project and
Smashing it.
There we go. And starting all over again. Maybe it's a completely different visual that you see. You step away. You get self-reflective. You go about it as a strategist. You do it in whatever way, shape, or form. But this year, probably singularly more than anything else, as I've talked to friends, is all about change.
I agree.
Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody that we've talked to, I mean, huge changes going on in their life from a business perspective or a personal perspective. Same thing can apply in principle to you. So Tori, if you had a client that was saying, I want to make big changes, and they come to you with a project or whatever, what are the steps that, you kind of say, okay, before we kind of get taken away with that, how do you go about it? Because I don't see that any different than changes or goals or resolutions, right?
Well, that's funny you say that, because what I would do is I would look at what they've done in the past. I would analyze their previous marketing, their previous design, their previous interactions with consumers that match their industry, and then I would see what worked and what didn't work. I'm an analytic type person too, so I look at, was their website getting any traffic? If it got traffic, it spiked on a certain day. What did you do on that day? How were you marketing yourself in order to get those spikes in your analytics, or get the engagement that you wanted on specific content that you're putting out, and then replicate that in a new fashion moving forward to do just that and more, and how we can improve upon it moving forward. So it's always about reflecting back and analyzing what worked and what didn't work, and then taking what works, obviously, and moving forward to do that rinse and repeat kind of thing.
Yeah, and the greatest thing, as you had indicated about that, the greatest indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So if there is in fact past behavior of which you want to change or improve upon, maybe that's easier, because change, everybody seems to freeze up and lock up. But improve upon, then perhaps that is the best way in moving forward, so that you recognize when there are things sequentially that happen in terms of the way you do things, that you say, I'm going down that path. That's where the big bad wolf is. I have got to pull myself back off the path and then go down another place. So we want to also, as one of our items that we want to talk about before we kind of wrap this up for you, is the fact that in order for you to not only sustain the change in terms of doing it the way that you do, the absolute death of improvement is comparison.
Oh, yes.
So social media, I think, has some very fine things to it. And before I get on a soapbox about social media and the manner and way in which I think it's handled, and some people don't act accordingly and don't play nice on there, I will tell you this. Those people do not have the lives that you think that they do. And I love I'm forgetting what it was. It was like on a church sign. It was a marquee. And it said, treat people as though they're hurting, and 98% of the time, you're right. Most people are struggling or battling or going through their own set of circumstances. And if you work on you and stay in your lane and do you, and don't compare. Listen, I got a lot of work. That's why I don't compare myself to other people. But I also recognize that people who have had the experience, and this goes out to parents and other people who have had this, either by way of team sports, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, music, where you've had to work within a symphony or a group, or listen, I didn't play any instruments, so you can tell. If you're in a symphony now, you'll totally understand.
Orchestra, symphony.
Orchestra.
Yes.
There we go. One of those. So let's just say that you do that. Whatever it is that you do that was in a group setting, it allows you to realize the contribution that you make individually and how that applies to the greater good. But you always know that your game can be improved upon. So you focus on you do you, and let that just blossom. By the way, that also is inclusive if you want to make a resolution this year. If you are allowing yourself to bring yourself to the table of the feeding frenzy about talking about other people in a negative way, manner, shape, or form, shove yourself away from the frenzy of the feed fest, as I call it, because that's exactly what it sounds like. It's like a bunch of animals just like devouring a carcass of an animal, and you need not be a part of it. My response is, thanks, no thanks, I'm out. Just remove yourself from that. And if you have people in your life or that you have heard in your life that are not kind to you outside of that, that's fine too. They can be served elsewhere. They served you and you now are moving forward. So no comparing. No comparing. You got enough to work on. I alphabetize mine every single day of what I need to work on. I don't have time to think about what someone else is doing because it's been drilled into my head. But also recognize that in a greater scheme, you owe a greater responsibility to humankind to be a better version of yourself. So pose that question to yourself every day. Am I a better version of myself today than I was yesterday? And what do I intend to do to improve upon that tomorrow?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I think if we had to, in terms of what you take away is, you can do vision boards, you can do journals, you can do little notes that you put into a little vase or whatever you do and visit that at the end of the year.
Just do you.
You do you, but have something that will give you a sense of how you do something, because that's what I'm really looking for those people who say, Kyle, I have no idea. I don't know if I'm analytical. I don't know if I'm a strategist or a warrior. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you don't know, then that's because you've allowed outside influences to dictate the manner and way in which you think. So now you just have to re-energize, reconnect with yourself.
Yeah,
very good.
Absolutely.
That is an important piece. So that's the first step. So make sure that you have that. Be you. And make sure moving forward that you have an opportunity to not compare yourself with others, because you are who you are. You are the masterpiece to create. And we want to see that at the end of the year. We intend to do it.
Yeah.
Don't we?
We
yes,
do.
We intend to do it.
We're going to take you along the journey with us, I think.
So we're not inspired or we're not anything, you'll know immediately. But either way, that's what your challenge is. Okay, guys? Keep track, do you, and don't compare.
Yep.
And
stay strong.
And stay strong. Be that best version of yourself and be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. And how can you improve upon that tomorrow? Okay? Yep. That's it. That's the podcast.
Thanks so much.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck. We'll see you next time.